right, welcome back, everybody. I'm Trevor Horn, your host. Obviously, like we said before, Zach is off this week. He and his wife introduced a new baby boy to the world on Sunday, so congratulations to them. So we've had Ridgeview football, we've had Bakersfield football in, we've got that big game tomorrow night at Griffith Field, and right now we've got in our good buddy from the Fresno Bee, Andy Boogaard. Andy, how are you, sir?
Well, pretty good. Drying up a little bit. We actually had some rain here this morning. Did you have any down there?
We had a little bit. I was trying to figure out what that was coming out of the sky, but anything is better than nothing, right?
Yeah, no, this is, we had enough to clear the dust out of the air. You can't keep a car clean, and that bugs me. But yeah, it's refreshing. The sun's out now, but it's had a decent amount of rain, so good deal.
Speaking of the dust in the air, Andy, you've got a few more games this week than you had anticipated when the season started because there were so many cancellations because of the rogue fires 3 weeks ago. Now that you've kind of, and I don't want to poke fun at it, now that the dust has settled, that whole situation with having to cancel the games and find games to kind of make up for those, how much did that kind of affect the teams up in the Fresno area?
Well, it bothered them. They didn't like to lose the game. Now most of them have arranged and juggled their schedule and shuffled their cards and made them up. But it was, if some team had a little momentum going, then all of a sudden lost the game. That was bothersome.
Right.
But they've most of them have been made up. Some of them were lost. But yeah, it was a bad deal, very unusual, situation. That losing a Friday night, it's big. Washington, for example, is going to play Kingsburg that night. Now they've rearranged and they're going to play the game, but for a school like Washington, that's a big date. That's about $10,000. Their athletic director, told me that Jeff Freitas that they would have lost. So. Besides, Friday Night Lights and how students like it and fans like it and players like it, it's a big financial blow to the whole home schools when you lose a gate like that.
Right. Kind of going back to the football field, as the season's gone on, we're now 5 weeks into it. League starts for most of the leagues next week. League play starts. For you, kind of break down what you've seen. Maybe start with the D1 teams. Obviously, Clovis is as good as you thought they were going to be. But kind of break it down. Bullard, obviously, a team that's kind of on the rise. What's your kind of idea as league starts next week of what you're going to see tonight and kind of, highs and lows?
Trevor, it's been kind of a bizarre season, and there's nothing to suggest that's going to end. Yeah. Especially all the way down there, the game that I still can't let go. I sure wish Jordan Love could have played against Ridgeview. But those kind of things, up here, just haven't quite had a real firm feel. But things are starting to play out. Bullard, really pointed to this year. They go up to Grant, play them tough in Sacramento, almost beat them, come back, and hold on to win by 3 against a Central team that hadn't been competitive in its first 2 games. And I'm like, what? I was looking for red flags, and that was a red flag. Then they turn around and throttle Clovis West last week. That was very, very impressive. That game. So, in Clovis' situation, I was so impressed with Stockdale that night when they came over here and almost knocked off Clovis, and they were so well cut. Brett Shelton, I don't know what he has on the rest of his staff, but there's just indications like that. That tells me that Stockton could win it all, Clovis could win it all, Bullard could win it all. Will Addison get it going? They're going to get a transfer quarterback in the second half of the season. I suppose they could. Bakersfield's Bakersfield. Look with Centennial, played awfully well against Clovis. So, what I see, Trevor, is what you don't see very often is the 2013 team with Bake. When they roll in the playoffs by 23, 39, and 39 against 3 track schools. You don't get that very often, and we certainly don't have that this year, So, I just see several teams that could could win it all, and I suppose it'll go right down to it. I tell you what struck me this week. I got to thinking about, Trevor, what would have really been cool. You don't see this very often, but in the realignment system that they have in the central section, they do it in 3-year cycles.
Right.
One thing you can do, you can't request to go down, but you can request to go up, and it's automatic anytime you want. Wouldn't it have been a cool deal if Ridgeview, they went D2 last year? Oh, what the heck, let's go up. We're playing a D1 non-league schedule anyway and whooping on everybody. I think that would have been so cool. I mean, it doesn't happen very often. It's only happened a couple times ever,
right.
really, but that thought kind of entered my mind that that would have been nice to have them in the D1 playoffs. But
let's jump into that really quickly. With the new CIF realignment where Division I, Division III, and Division V in the central section are going to play in the NorCal playoffs, and now that we've got, 13, I believe, 13 different regional playoff games, or 12 regional playoff games, and 13 state championships this year. Do you think this year, with it being kind of so wide open and knowing that whoever wins the central section is going to go into a state regional playoff game regardless, do you think that this is going to bode well, but kind of better for that team that's going to move on than it would be in another year where a team is just kind of head and shoulders better than everybody else?
Well, one thing I've certainly noticed, I'm sure you have down there, Trevor, is that the players and coaches are very aware of it, and the coaches are playing that card with their players. They know, there will be that guaranteed carrot that's hanging there. To win the championship, that they will play in what they call a state bowl, call it state regional or whatever. But the players, this is quite a motivating development that I have found. Everywhere I go, and when I talk to a school that will be a contender to win a section title, they are very aware of that, and they're quite excited about it. So I think it's a good deal. And I know that the players and coaches are certainly looking forward to it. It's regardless.
Right.
Okay, there'll be a 1, a 1A, a 2, a 2A. They're going to break down, to create all these new divisions. They don't care. They could be playing in a 10B division, whatever. It's a very motivating tool and big old carrot hanging out there for teams that will be in contention.
Well, then, are you on the same side of the argument that I'm on, that we're not diluting the state championship idea in the state of California? We're actually making it more competitive and the way it should be, because, this is the largest state in the union population-wise. It garners 13 state championships in football because you look at, I know for us, you look at a Wasco team in 2013 that went 13-0 and then got left at home. It wasn't fair in the system before, and this is only going to make it better, don't you think, Andy?
Well, I do. So we're singing in the same choir there, and I know we have opposition to that, Trevor. But the same principle, I believe, applies to the central section. And in football, for example, where we have 6 divisions, there's some people that it's too many. Just play 2 or 3 divisions. Why? Do you think? You think that kid at Kennedy last year that won that D6, 20, 30 years from now, you think that he's going to be telling his grandkids, but it was cheap.
Nope.
It was only D6.
Nope.
We had 6 divisions. Heck no.
No.
They hung a plaque. They hung a banner at Kennedy, and to give those smaller schools, Corcoran wins D5 to give them that opportunity. Hey, that's something they'll cherish the rest of their life, and I have absolutely no problem with it.
Yep. I'm in the same boat. And then when you look at it, too, the venues that the state is going to have to try to come up with because obviously, I think they're going to have 5 of the state championship games played at Hornet Stadium up at Sac State this year. And they're going to I talked to Ron Nichetti, who's second in charge for the CIF state office. He said they're going to try to look at regional games. And he said even some of the small games may end up being home games for some of the teams in the D5 and D6 era. Do you have a problem with that? Because I'm still in the boat that if they can find a venue, you get a venue, and it doesn't matter. The kids aren't going to remember where they played at in the state championship. Maybe they think about that, but when they're 40 years old, like you said, they're going to remember winning a California state championship rather than where they played it.
Yeah, so you're saying you want neutral? Is that what you're saying?
I'd like to see neutral, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it really matters. You're playing a state championship game, but if you're looking at it and say you have in D1, say Clovis ends up undefeated, and they're what 13-0 in D1 in the Central section, and they end up playing maybe a 11-3 Del Oro team, and they say, well, let's go ahead and move that game down to Fresno. Where would you want that game played if they did something like that? Or D5, is a Liberty Madera Ranchers is in D4. If they ended up hosting a game, where would you want that D4 game if they said we need to put it in Fresno?
If they moved it out of Liberty,
yeah, if they made it a neutral site in Fresno, where, Fresno City College.
One thing that you have to be concerned with when you're talking now December 13 or whatever, you always have to have weather considerations,
right.
Trevor. In this case, why not guarantee yourself a good surface and go where there's artificial surface? In this case, that would be Central.
That's a good point.
And they have a nice stadium, so that would be, because they actually have grass there at the Liberty. I'm doing as we speak, a profile on the Liberty Madera Ranchos program, which is 41-2 in the last 4 seasons. It's amazing. But they have grass there. But I think that's always a safe way to go. You never know what kind of weather you're going to have. So, and there's quite a few schools now that have the artificial surface. So that's, to answer your question, that's what I would do. But they're going to, I think they're going to need to have, it's almost forced their hands to have a host school where, for gate purposes, how many people are going to travel in mid-December, getting close to Christmas, to a neutral site to leave, so. But it'll be interesting to see how all that plays out.
Right. Well, Andy, 15 minutes goes by way too quick, man. I appreciate you coming on. Thanks again. We'll have you on later in the season. Enjoy tomorrow night as you always do, and always do great work up there at Fresno B. So, Andy, thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Well, just one message to Zach. I'm disappointed. If you're going to name this boy Jacob Twyman Frederick Ewing, if you're going to go that far with like 40 letters, throw an Andrew in there. Come on, have a little respect. What's wrong with Jacob Twyman Frederick Andrew Ewing? I mean, come on. If you're going to go that far anyway, give me some love, brother. But anyway, congratulations to the Ewing family.
And Zach, that's from all of us. We know you're watching right now, so we appreciate it. And Andy, again, thanks a lot. I'll be right back. We're going to go over our predictions for Friday night, so stick around. We'll be right back for our last segment.